Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Shelley Seward, and I'm the interim town moderator. And I want to welcome everybody for coming. I'm going to officially call the meeting to order. We're going to hold off on reading the warning and starting the articles until we address a very important situation that I know we're all thinking about at this point, and that is the sense of loss that we're all feeling with the recent passing of Matt Birmingham. It is a huge hole to fill. We all miss him terribly, and Matt was involved in many areas of the community. He was a friend and a neighbor and a coach and a library trustee and a town attorney, just to name a few. If you have not already done so, read page 1 of the town report, because it is a dedication to Matt and it's incredibly well done. So everybody should take an opportunity to read that. But there was no role that Matt played within the community that exemplified his commitment to West Windsor and the democratic process more than that of being town moderator for 34 years. The town has changed significantly in those years, but Matt was unwavering in his belief that an in-person participatory annual meeting was the one thing that we could do to keep West Windsor's inclusive town decision-making in effect. He felt very strongly about that. And obviously, he did a great job convincing all of you how important that is, by evidenced by how many of you were here today. And he'd be honored to see how many of you were here today. The other thing Matt would be honored at is, while everybody else was watching the Super Bowl, I was watching tapes of Matt doing the 2025 and the 2024 meetings, so I had some idea what to do. Matt would have gotten the biggest kick out of the fact that I gave up the Super Bowl for that. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Matt's wife, Lynn Birmingham, and their son, Matthew Birmingham, our West Windsor resident, grew up in West Windsor. And I speak for the entire town in expressing our gratitude for all that Matt gave us and all that Matt taught us. It's an impressive legacy, and I hope that the next generation strives to achieve that. He was a gift, and we thank you for your willingness to share him with us. Please join. Would everybody please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. I'm going to introduce Elizabeth Burrows, who also has a presentation to make in Matt's honor. Want the microphone? You want a microphone?
State of Vermont, House of Representatives, Montpelier, Vermont, concurrent resolution HCR 209, offered by Representatives Burrows of West Windsor and Bartholomew of Heartland, offered by Senators Clarkson, Major, and White. House concurrent resolution in memory of former West Windsor town moderator Matthew T. Birmingham III. Whereas a native of New Haven, Connecticut, Matt Birmingham graduated from the Taft School, studied at Haileybury in Imperial Service College in England, and earned a bachelor's degree from Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, and a Juris Doctorate from Boston College Law School. And whereas in 1976, he and his wife, Lynn Chagisser, moved to West Windsor, where they purchased and carefully restored a historic house in Shedsville, which was part of the town's original settlement, and made it their home for the next half century. And they also purchased a farm in Cavendish. And whereas during a storied legal career, Matt Birmingham was a member of the Vermont Bar Association, the Windsor County Bar Association, and the Vermont Association for Justice. He earned admission into the Vermont Inns of Court. He taught criminal law at the former College of St. Joseph in Rutland, and both professionally and personally, he was a compassionate humanitarian. And whereas an enthusiastic athlete, he loved to hike, sail, and ski. As a student at the Taft School, he played varsity ice hockey and captained the lacrosse team. And he passed on his athletic passion and belief in good sportsmanship, coaching lacrosse at Woodstock Union High School, soccer at Albert Bridge School in Brownsville, and ice hockey in the Twin Valley Ice Hockey League. And whereas Matt Birmingham's concern for young persons prompted his role as a youth mentor through Windsor County Partners. And whereas his outstanding leadership in the town of West Windsor spanned the literary and civic aspects of community life. As a devoted bibliophile, he served as a trustee of the Mary L. Blood Memorial Library in Brownsville. And with attentiveness to Robert's Rules of Order and an engaging sense of humor for an impressive 34 years, Matt Birmingham expertly and thoughtfully presided at municipal meetings at the respected West Windsor, as the respected West Windsor town moderator. And whereas Matt Birmingham's wife, children, grandchildren, the town of West Windsor, and even the family's dogs, for whom he always had a treat, were saddened to learn of his passing on January 15th, 2026, at 77 years of age. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives that the General Assembly extends its sincere condolences to the family of Matthew T. Birmingham III, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to the family of Matt Birmingham and the West Windsor Town Clerk.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, so we're going to officially start the meeting now. So I'm going to read the legal voters of the town of West Windsor, Vermont are hereby notified and warned to meet at the Story Memorial Hall in said town of West Windsor on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026 at 9 a.m. to act on the following articles. Now, I can take a motion and a second at this point that allows us to waive the rest of the reading of the morning. So if I have a motion to waive the reading of the morning. A second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. So the next article is Article 1, which I need to step down for, and Amy's going to do.
Good morning. This is for elect a moderator for the town for the ensuing year. And I just have to share with you that I retyped these notes that I'm on this yellow piece of paper, but this is Matt's original writing to me on my first town meeting now 3 town meetings ago. So I will keep this forever. And actually, there's a little note on there from Kathy Archibald as well with her writing on there. So this is now going to stay in my book as long as I'm here. So I will now accept nominations for moderator. I nominate Shelley Seward. Shelley Seward has been nominated and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, I declare the nominations closed. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and Shelley is our new moderator.
Thank you all very much. Like I say, these are huge shoes to fill. I'm going to start by just maybe trying to fill slippers. I'm not even going anywhere near trying to fill Matt's shoes at this point. We do have a few housekeeping rules that for those of you who have been here year after year, this will probably be redundant, but I see some new faces out there, which is nice to see. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that you have to wear this visibly. This is your voter ID sticker. I'm also going to ask you to silence your phone, your watches, your headbands, whatever beeps, okay? So just to make sure everything is silenced. Remind you that only registered voters are allowed to speak, except for the tradition we've always followed, which is we allow our representatives from Montpelier to speak. And if there's anyone representing one of the groups in the Article 11 asking for money, we generally allow them to speak as well. Raise your hand when called upon, stand and state your name, and unless you have a very loud voice like me, please use a microphone, okay? Because if you have something worthy of saying, it's really unfortunate for people not to be able to hear it. We have microphone runners. We have Jackson and here, and we have Ella here, okay? So we have microphone runners. You're only able to speak a second time after everyone has had an opportunity to speak a first time. And I know we've got some things on the morning today that may result in some lengthy conversation. And I really ask everybody to respect letting everybody have an opinion and letting everybody be heard. I want to remind everybody that the school voting is open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. We encourage everybody to vote. Do your best to try to limit the disruption to the town meeting. But again, we encourage everybody to vote. You come up here, get your ballot, vote, and then hand it in down there. We're going to ask people not to stand near the ballot at the, not to stand where the rope is. Okay, so you need to just stay out, not accumulate where the rope is. You can't impede the election. Please stay through the end of the meeting to hear announcements. Article 12 is one of those. Anybody can say anything. We can't take any action, but it's a way to learn about what's going on from other organizations. And in today, there is going to be some information provided by the fire department. So it would be great for everybody to stay to the end so that they could hear that. I'm going to continue the tradition of reminding everybody that at the end of the day, we are all friends and neighbors. So please be patient with me, be courteous with one another, and make Matt proud. So we are going to move to Article 2, which is to act on the reports of the town for the year ending December 30th, 1st, 2025. Do I have a motion and a second? A second? Okay. Any discussion, comments, questions about the reports included in this year's annual report? I like the way this is going. All right, hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the reports as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay? Okay. We move on to Article 3, to elect town officers for the ensuing year. On page 7 of your town report, these are listed. The first is we have one select board position. It's a 3-year position. It's currently filled by Mark Harley. And we are open now to accepting nominations for that position.
Nominate Mark Harley.
Mark, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I've enjoyed working with these two gentlemen for the last 3 years, keeping the town running as efficiently and effectively as possible, and would look forward to the opportunity to continue, especially keeping our taxes as low as we responsibly can. It's the one thing we have some control over. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations for selectmen? Okay, hearing none. Selectman is one of the positions that you can make a motion for the clerk to cast one ballot, and we don't have to do a full vote. That's true for selectman and auditor. So do I have someone who would make a motion to have the clerk submit one vote? Second? Okay, Mark Harley, congratulations, another 3 years. So the next position is auditor. We have one position open, and that is a 3-year position as well. It's currently filled by Justin Burrows.
I'd like to nominate Justin Burrows.
Do I have a second? Is Justin here?
Justin Burrow.
Thank you, Jack. Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, again, I'll accept a motion to, for the clerk to submit one vote for Justin Burrows to be our 3-year auditor. Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, Justin is our new 3-year auditor. Delinquent tax collector, that is a 1-year position. It's currently held by Amy Yates. Any nominations for delinquent tax collector?
Amy Yates.
A second? Second? Amy Yates, okay, a second, I got. Any other nominees for delinquent tax collector? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of Amy Yates as delinquent tax collector, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Amy, you're it. Okay. Okay, the next position is first constable. It's a 1-year position. It's currently held by Matt Cantola. Is Matt here? It's a great time to nominate him if he's not here. Yeah.
I nominate Matt.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Matt Cantola. Any seconds? Any other nominees? Okay, all those in favor of Matt Cantola filling the 1-year first constable position signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, Matt Cantola is our first constable. Second constable, 1-year position, is currently held by Mark Morse. Is Mark here? Okay. Nominees for second constable.
For the record, Mark has indicated he does not want to continue in the role.
Okay, so Mark has made it known he does not want to continue. Do we have another nominee for second constable? You don't get a car or a light or anything, but, you know. No nominations for second constable?
Helping Matt. The second constable essentially is assisting the first constable to perform the actions on behalf of the town. So frequently that's helping with loose animals or visits to people who are in violation of ordinances, exciting things like that. The first constable handles almost all of them. I'm not sure that Mark actually did anything in the last year. It's mostly ceremonial unless the first constable needs help.
Any nominees? We'll leave the position vacant and possibly somebody can come forward to the selectmen when they've had a chance to think about the opportunity they just gave up. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to move on to some. There was a little bit of confusion here, and I just want to clarify it. The next position, and this is in the town warning that was signed. So this is the official town warning, not the one that's in the book, because the position of town agent was inadvertently left off the one that was in the book. But we do have a town agent position open for 1 year, and that is something that I will now accept nominations for. That was Matt. Correct? That was Matt Birmingham. So are there any nominees for town agent? Okay, there's another one.
Yep.
Okay, we'll talk about whether, in the future, the select board can talk about whether that's a position. It's not a required position by the state of Vermont any longer, so it's not required. And the last town officer to be elected under this article is the Campbell Fund trustee. It's a 3-year position. It's currently held by Pat Kenyon. Does anybody have any nominations for a 3-year position for the Campbell Fund trustee?
I nominate Pat Kenyon.
Do we have a second? Okay, second.
Support for Pat Kenny.
Thank you, Jack. Any other nominees for Campbell Fund trustee? Okay. All of those in favor of Pat Kenyon as the Campbell trustee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay, Pat Kenyon is our Campbell Fund trustee. Okay, Article 4. Shall the town vote to pay all property taxes to the town treasurer in 2 installments? The first installment of 50% thereof on or before October 30th, 2026 by 4:30 p.m. with no discount for payment in advance. Payments received after 4:30 p.m. will incur penalty and interest. Postmarks are not accepted as timely payment. In the second installment of 50% thereof, on or before April 30th, 2027, with no discount for payment in advance. Payments received after 4:30 p.m. will incur penalty and interest. Postmarks are not accepted as timely payment. Okay, do I have a motion and a second on that article? Mary Ann, a motion, do I have a second? Okay, is there any discussion on Article 4 as read?
I have a question. We have,
You want to stand up, Marcella, and speak loudly so everybody can hear
the
you.
payment due this April. Is it 50% or did we pay more in October?
I'm going to let
You
Andy answer
paid, you
that.
paid 67% in October, it's 33% in April, but if we do this, it will be 50-50, because we're not making up for that extra 6 months budget.
Thank you.
And also, let me just say too, that you are welcome to pay it all in October. But seriously, if that makes people feel better about, their April payment, not missing it, feel free, do that, get it off your plate. And I know a lot of people do like that schedule, so, but it will be 50-50.
Any other questions or discussion on Article 4? Okay, all of those in favor of adopting Article 4 as read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay? Article 4 carries. And here we go. Okay, so Article 5. Before we start Article 5, 6, and 7, I think Mark Higgins, Select Board Chair, had something he'd like to say.
Good morning. Before we move into Articles 5, 6, and 7, the local option tax articles, I want to say a few words. The Select Board you see in front of you is doing its best to figure out what it actually costs to run this town. Not just this year, but in a way that gives our children and the people who move here in 10 or 20 years a chance to look back and say they tried. They were thinking long term. Maybe they were wrong, but they were acting in good faith. Or, better yet, I'm glad they did that because our lives are easier now. I don't want to pay more taxes. I don't enjoy spending money on things that I didn't choose. The federal government takes a cut, the state takes a cut, and then something breaks, and there's another bill. The only part of that system that I have any say over is the municipal budget. And here's the reality that we cannot avoid. When you receive your real estate tax bill, you don't have a choice. If you don't pay it, the town can lien your property. Eventually, it can go to tax sale. That is the sovereign power of the government. It's not pleasant to talk about, but it is real. Property taxes are the most unavoidable form of taxation that we have. They are the dues of belonging to a place, and they fund the most tangible parts of community life. Roads that are plowed and maintained, a library that offers knowledge and space to anyone who needs it, basic infrastructure that lets this town function with dignity. Those things cost money, and they're getting more expensive faster than anyone planned for. We can put 100% of those rising costs onto property taxes. That is the cleanest option administratively, but it is also the most rigid and the most unforgiving. The local option taxes we're asking you to approve today are an attempt, and they are not a perfect one, to diversify how we pay for those obligations. If some portion of that revenue comes from people who shop here occasionally, from second homeowners, from visitors, from people who are otherwise not paying property taxes here, then that portion reduces the pressure on the tax bill that you cannot avoid. I'm not excited about asking for a sales tax. I'm not pretending that this is a painless process. But we are all trying to preserve something important: predictability and local control. Right now, the reason West Windsor's tax rate is comparatively stable, and yes, by the data available to us, it remains among the lower rates in Vermont, is because of thoughtful decisions made by people who served before us. They planned, they absorbed costs early, and they didn't wait until the town was behind. Once a town falls behind financially, it never catches up easily. You're always chasing the next crisis. You lose the ability to make deliberate choices. Everything becomes reactive. These articles are an attempt to avoid that future. If the community wants fewer services or a different model of what this town provides, that is a legitimate discussion. But if our goal is to maintain what we have, roads, access to knowledge, functional infrastructure, then we need to be honest about how it is paid for. The Select Board has reviewed, debated, and struggled with these questions. And we're asking for your support, not because this is fun or politically easy, but because we believe it protects the long-term health and independence of the town. Thank you.
Okay, so Article 5, shall the town assess a 1% tax on rooms as allowed by Vermont law, with the proceeds of such tax being dedicated to offset capital expenses? Do I have a motion and a second to consider the article? Second. Okay, any discussion? Can you stand and state your name, please?
My name is Mary Day.
You want to get her a microphone, Jackson? Thank you.
My name is Severia Vague, and my question is, what percentage of that money would go to the state, and what percentage would come to the town?
Okay, let the select board start.
Sure. Under all of the local option tax articles, 75% of the money collected stays in town. 25% of the money collected will go to administrative costs by the state, as well as the state's payment in lieu of taxes fund, the pilot fund, which is a fund that the state establishes to pay towns the land taxes that they're not otherwise required to pay for state lands that exist in a town. There are only 2 parcels in West Windsor that this applies to, but if the state owns land in a town, they're not obligated to pay taxes on it. The pilot fund is the means by which they give money back to the towns for that, even though they do not have the obligation to pay the town.
What is that money?
You want to stand and state your name, please? Don't want to stand? Okay.
Sorry, what was the question?
That's all right.
No, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
How much of the money that goes back to the state goes back to the town? What percentage?
Yeah, sure. Again, we don't have a huge amount of state land within West Windsor, so we don't see a lot of pilot funds. I think it's less than $100. It's less than $100, but there are other towns that have more state land, so they receive a larger portion. Less than $100. Yes.
Thanks, Don. Any other questions? Discussion? Dan?
Dan Lustig. I'm kind of curious, is this the type of thing that we can do away with next year if it isn't working? I mean, $100 doesn't seem like much.
That's the payment out of the 25% that goes to the state. We are receiving, don't forget, the 75% of the money collected directly off the bat. That's just later on. But yes, the short answer is if a sufficient number of voters or the select board get enough signatures for a petition to put on a warning for either a special town meeting or next year's regular town meeting, you can repeal it.
Bill Delaney, I'm wondering if the town how to administer the costs of this tax, how much time we would have to consider our employees putting in?
The tax is collected by the state. The town receives a check every quarter. There is no administrative cost to the town for it.
Marcella?
I saw on Facebook, page forum, one porch forum, that Sarah Yates put up a really interesting and informative thing about this, and I would love for her to share that right now.
Well, I guess I can read it. My hand's summarized right now. Hold on a second. Is this on? Okay, sorry, my voice gets shaky when I talk because I'm nervous. Okay, I'll just read it verbatim for those of you who don't have Front Porch Forum. After attending the special meeting on Saturday and listening to the discussion regarding Articles 5, 6, and 7, I have a few thoughts. To set the stage, a brief Google search on local options taxes yields the following overview. Quote, Vermont municipalities may vote to impose a 1% local options tax, LOT, L-O-T, on sales, meals, and alcoholic beverages, and rooms to raise revenue for local services. Governed by Title 24 VSA 138, this tax is added to the state taxes and collected by the Vermont Department of Taxes. As of October 1st, 2025, municipalities receive 75% of the revenue, with 25% going to the pilot fund, which is the payment in lieu of taxes program. Unquote. I was mostly interested in learning about other communities that have adopted these measures and the effects on locals. One of the questions I asked was whether there were any towns that had adopted the sales tax, Article 7, and subsequently repealed it. The select board was aware of one town that had done this, but couldn't recall which town. You want to fill in?
Subsequent to the post, we discovered it, or we found it was Killington. The resort had made a big push in town for the repeal of the sales tax with a promise to spend more money on municipal expenditures to make up for money going to the state.
So thank you for following up on that. I'll continue reading. I think it would be worthwhile for our select board to reach out to those town officials to get a better sense of why the voters reversed course. You did. Additionally, they discussed what happens to the 25% of tax revenue that the state keeps and uses for the payment in lieu of taxes program. The pilot program is basically the state's way of making up for the property tax revenue towns lose when the state owns lands or buildings locally. Since state-owned property is tax exempt, it leaves a hole in the budget that would otherwise help pay for things like our roads, fire department, and police. Upon further investigation for fiscal year 24, 25, and 26, West Windsor has received $79.61 each year from this fund for the Little Ascutney Wildlife Management Area. The estimated lot revenue total, if we were to approve all three articles provided in West Windsor's local option tax presentation, is $71,316. Therefore, 75% would be $53,487, and 25% would be $17,829. The town of West Windsor would be contributing $17,829 to the pilot program for our yearly $79.61 reimbursement. seems off, if you ask me. All hope is not lost. The Vermont legislature passed Act 57, effective October 1st, 2025, adjusting the lot revenue split from 70% municipality, 30% state, to 75% municipality, 25% state, essentially letting us keep more of our money that we raise on these local options taxes. This is especially relevant since many municipalities have started enacting lot, and the pilot program is now 100% fully funded with a surplus. My point is that it's possible to urge your representatives to build upon Act 57 and adjust the split further to balance the pilot program funding and let municipalities keep and use revenue to reduce our property tax burden. I do not want the pilot surplus used for other purposes. Once it's in their hands, it's hard to get it back. So let's keep it in our own town coffers. In conclusion, sorry this is lengthy, I think it makes sense to take a measured approach regarding the local options taxes in our small town. We are not Woodstock. We are not Stowe. Our tourism is not at the level of these other towns. If we, the locals, are ordering stuff on Amazon or purchasing from our own small businesses, let's not pay an additional tax. I'd rather learn more about the experiences of other small towns that have enacted the sales portion of law to see if it's a good fit for us, or include a sunset provision in the article so we can try it out and then re-vote once it expires. This would allow us to glean a better understanding of the revenue and impact. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Elizabeth? Your microphone.
Thank you, as I guess the legislative representative who's here right now. I did respond to that Facebook post, but only individually, not publicly. And I just wanted to, I sent queries out to, I do not serve on a money committee, so I do not know what exactly the Ways and Means Committee in the House or Senate Finance are precisely doing, but I did ask my colleagues on those committees what their thoughts were about it. And I learned that it has been in discussion, that lots of angles on this have been in discussion. For example, whether the 25% should be further lowered, what to do with the surplus, whether it should be returned to the towns or whether it should be used otherwise. There's also been discussion about using it to help some of the communities that have been affected by flooding the last couple of years. And so what I want you to know is that it is being discussed. There have been no decisions about it made at this time, as with many other things going on at or decisions that are before us at the State House right now. But it is in progress, and I will keep you updated on where it is. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Jack?
Jack Dugdale. I just wanted to thank the select board for breaking these out separately into 3 separate articles so that we can have a more granular discussion about each of them. I think that Plymouth is also voting on local option taxes today, and they've lumped it into one article, which I think muddies the waters a little bit. So I appreciate having the ability to decide on each of these individually. On Article 5, to me, this one, if you accept the select board's premise that finding other sources of revenue is a good idea, this one seems like a no-brainer to me, because if you live in town, if you rent or own in town, you're very unlikely to need to rent an Airbnb or a hotel room in town and would be very unlikely to pay this tax. So we're basically getting visitors to pay for our stuff, which I kind of like that. You can debate the morals of that, but I like having other people pay for my stuff. Also, based on the select board's presentation about expected revenues, it looks like the rooms portion of this accounts for around 60% of the total option taxes. So if you approve this one, you're approving the bulk of the money that you would get out of these local option taxes. Obviously not all of it, but one article gets you 60-ish% of the total, and it's the one with the least impact on you as a taxpayer. So, food for thought. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Gordon? Whoops, Ella?
Gordon Troy. I just had a quick question, particularly about the rooms portion of the 3 articles. Because the mountain is essentially a timeshare, I mean, many people come and stay at the mountain. Are taxes actually being collected for them coming? I mean, this is a part that I just never really understood. Because I know before I owned here, we tried to stay there many times, and you couldn't stay there because the owners weren't fake, there's a whole variety of things. So I'm just kind of curious how that works into the calculation.
Sure. As part of the way that the hotel pays taxes to the town is they share their financials with us. And so the estimated revenue from the hotels, or the rooms portion for the hotel, are just a review of their financials and backing into what they paid for room tax the last 2 years, and then figuring out what the town's portion of that would be. So there may be transactions that they're doing on that the rooms tax doesn't apply to, but we did not account for that in our figures. So my point is if there are timeshares and someone doesn't pay a rooms tax on it, we didn't count it for what we expect revenue to come out of it. The number you see should be a safe number.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Oops, sorry, Claudia.
Just like the Airbnb, I don't know if everyone's familiar with how that works, but looking briefly at it last night, and I noticed protests from the owners, which there are quite a few in this town. And their nightly rate varies from mid-100s up to as much as $600 a night. So we're talking about $6 a night for those high-end places that we would get a portion of. And I remember it was a year ago, they were protesting having to even register for $100 for their whole year. So I don't think this is too much of an imposition or an anti-business move. But I think if of all of them, this is the one we should say yes to, because as Jack said, it's not coming out of our pockets. And people who are going to spend $600 a night for a place, $6 is not going to send them to another town. So, thank you.
If you want
It's not $100.
we're just going to get you a microphone, okay? Thank you.
Yes, Claudia Shintami. It's not $100 for the short-term rental. It's, I believe there's a minimum number, and then it's $100 per room additional. So it's well over $1,000 per year for most people who are doing a short-term rental.
A point of clarification, the short-term rental registration, if you live on the property where you have an Airbnb, it's $150. If you do not live on the property, then it's $300 per bedroom. So that's the distinction.
Rob?
Yeah, Rob Calhoun. Order of magnitude, how much revenue do you project this will bring in?
You're speaking about the rooms tax?
Yes, just start.
Did we give out the lot presentation in the back?
So the projected revenue by category, with the caveat of the sales is intentionally estimated about as low as it could be so that we can under-promise. The sales figure is about $7,700 per year. This is our share. The meals and alcohol portion is about $10,300, and the rooms, which is Article 5, is about $35,000.
I'm sorry, $35,000?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Jill.
Jill?
Jill Delaney, could tell from the past year of the short-term rental fees we've collected, how much money are the short-term rentals currently earning per year?
Yes, the software we use as part of the short-term rental registry program also gives us an estimated revenue in the aggregate for all properties in town. Just want to make sure I get the number right. We're using as a top-line revenue number for short-term rentals in town of $1.5 million.
Okay, seeing no further questions, I'm going to restate the article and we're going to put it to a vote. Article 5, shall the town assess a 1% tax on rooms as allowed by Vermont law, with the proceeds of such being dedicated to offset capital expenses? We're going to try this with a voice vote. If a voice vote doesn't work, then we're going to go to a paper ballot. All in favor of Article 5 as presented, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Nay. I would be comfortable calling that the ayes have it, but if somebody wants to challenge me, feel free to do so. Okay, the ayes have it, and Article 5 carries. Article 6, shall the town assess a 1% tax on meals and alcohol beverages as allowed by Vermont law, with the proceeds of such being dedicated to offset capital expenses? I'll take a motion and a second.
Second.
A second? Okay, any discussion on Article 6 as read? Okay, seeing no discussion. Wow, okay. We're going to do the same thing. We'll do a voice vote first. All those in favor of Article 6 as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Nay. Again, I would be comfortable saying the ayes have it, but if somebody wants to challenge me, please feel free to do so. Okay, Article 6 is adopted. Article 7, shall the town assess a 1% tax on sales as allowed by Vermont law, with the proceeds of such tax being dedicated to offset capital expenses? Can I have a motion and a second on that article as read? Okay. Any discussion on Article 7? Peter?
Peter Ferrick. I'd like to know what items are exempt from that, such as fuel. I know vehicles are, but I'd like to hear it expanded.
The easiest way to answer that question is if you are not currently paying sales tax on an item, you will still not pay sales tax on that item. The vehicles, so when we say sales tax under these circumstances, it's specific to a statute. When you purchase a vehicle, the tax you pay to the state is pursuant to a different statute. So when we're talking about a sales tax, it's just for general everyday transactions. When you're, I'm sorry I can't be more explicit about it, it's just a broad category. But there are many things that are exempt from the general sales tax in Vermont. Medicine delivered to your door, groceries, fuel, as you say. Matt, help me out with any other. Clothing, thank you. Agricultural items. I mean, the list is fairly well bodied out, and in the materials that we've provided over the course of this discussion, the state has resources in which they can be more explicit about when a tax is owed and not. But the short answer is, if you're not currently paying sales tax on an item, you will still not pay sales tax on that item.
Any other questions or comments on Article 7? No.
Bill Yates, as far as I understand, with this increased building costs, like the building materials in the town by 1%?
Again, if they're delivered into town and you're paying a sales tax on it, it's a destination-based tax, so that would apply to that.
And was this factored into the total estimated revenue?
The estimated revenue for the sales tax in our presentation is significantly undercounted. The state did not allow us to see the data on what they do collect for sales tax in town. There's reasons for that, mostly for confidentiality of individual businesses. We're so small that if they gave us the total numbers, we could figure out who's making what, and that's not considered fair. So in estimating the revenue for this, we use general statewide figures and then cut them in half whenever we could. So this, for potential for revenue raising, the sales tax number is the lowest one in all of our presentation materials, but it has the greatest variability. It has the greatest chance to make more. The STR and rooms tax is fairly baked in. We're not acquiring more rooms at an incredible rate. Meals and alcohol, there's really only a few purveyors in town that are not increasing at an incredible rate. But we do not have a good idea of how much sales transactions are, or the dollar amount of sales transactions going on in town. And so the number we've presented to you takes the statewide average, cuts it in half. Matt, help me out with this one.
Yeah, so in the state of Vermont, the average person has about a $4,000 per year at-home delivery. The average household size is 2.3 in Vermont. So per household, it's about $9,000 per year in online home deliveries. I don't know where West Windsor falls. There's no way to accurately assess that. So when the select board did their figures on about 500 households, the overall sales figure could be as high as $4 million. Is it likely to be that high? I have no idea. The select board wasn't comfortable using a number that high. So they halved it and then erred on the low side. So we estimated only $1 million of at-home deliveries just to make sure that we didn't promise something that wouldn't come through.
So
that help?
Yeah, it does. And so to answer your question specifically, the building materials on site are not factored into it because we had no way of finding out that number.
They would be.
It's destination-based tax. If the invoice is here and a sales tax is collected here, it'll be at 7% instead of 6%.
Any other questions, comments?
Would you implement the 1% sales tax on something that's delivered to my home? How do you know that I bought it and I owe the tax?
Let me repeat that in case people didn't hear it. He wants to know how would you actually implement the 1% tax? How would you know that he actually bought something?
So the state of Vermont handles that in the same manner that you pay the state 6% sales tax. All that happens is that the state will now collect 7%, and then they'll send us a check at the end of each quarter representing the monies collected. So we don't have to know. If the state's collecting sales tax on an item you ordered now, all you will see is that the sales tax goes from 6% to 7% on your invoice, and nothing further happens.
And could we get your name, please, for our records?
Mike McIntyre.
Mike McIntyre.
Hi, Carolyn Saylor. I just wanted to point out that as a business owner, I probably have $50,000 worth of inventory delivered to my home, which I pay 6% on, an additional 1% then per year is going to cost me $500. So I just wanted to put that in perspective. So maybe the average household is making $4,000, but you have to look at all these businesses that are bringing deliveries to their home. They're already paying 6%. And I have to tell you that there's probably a lot of people that are not paying the 6% on what they buy in New Hampshire that they use in their homes, especially the second homeowners.
Any other comments or discussion? Okay, hearing none. We're going to go to the vote. I'm going to try voice vote on this one. We'll see how we do. All of those in favor of the town assessing a 1% tax on sales as allowed by Vermont law, with the proceeds of such tax being dedicated to offset capital expenses, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, signify by saying nay. I'd be comfortable going with nay on that, but if anybody wants to challenge me again, please feel free to do so.
I'd like a paper ballot.
Okay, so if I have 7 hands requesting a paper ballot, we will go to a paper ballot. 1, 2, okay, I have more than 7. So we're going to do a paper ballot. There's paper on the back table, Amy?
A few
And then there's paper here, and you're gonna come up, come through the middle, put your ballot in here. Okay, can everybody hear me? All right, so unless there's anybody else, the voting box is closed for this article.
One more.
Oh.
Deb, what do you got? Oh. She was doing all the work.
Deb, you get back by this one.
Deb Stein was the first one.
Yeah, thanks, Deb.
Right?
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to declare the ballot box closed, and it needs to be counted at this point. So the Board of Civil Authority, if you want to come up and grab the ballots. BCA members.
And then if we need Deb and Deb, we can do that. Yeah, that'd be great, actually. Maybe Deb.
Okay, we're going to have everybody take a seat. So the results for Article 7, there were 162 registered voters in the House, and the vote is 93 no and 57 yes. So the motion is not carried. Okay, so we're going to continue a tradition that we've always done, and that is to welcome our representatives from Montpelier to speak. And we are going to start with Allison Clarkson. Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Is this on? You sure? It says it's on, so I guess we can come up. Thank you for having us. My name is Senator Joe Major, and this is Senator Allison Clarkson. I am the junior senator, and Allison is the senior senator over 2 decades in the legislature. It's surprising that you voted against taxes. I'm shocked at that. I wanted to say one thing about what's happening in the legislature, and the resounding thing, and I point to what just happened, is affordability, affordability, affordability. And in particular, what has been forefront in the news is Act 73 and the Educational Transformational Bill. It is a very complex issue. I think what we consistently hear is about our property taxes, and that has to be one of the things that we discuss, but the other part of that has to be educating our kids and having quality education for our kids. So balancing that is a very difficult thing. And even within the 2 bodies of the legislature, there are significant differences in their proposals, whether to have school choice or not, whether to have volunteering redistricting or not, or having it forced on. But here's what I know. We will figure this out. We have to figure this out. We have to figure out affordability for you. First and foremost. You know, I think about our health care and the fact that we have some of the highest health care in the nation. And we look across the river, and in New Hampshire, it's some of the lowest. And that can be incredibly frustrating. And there are bills in both the House and the Senate to help to lower health care costs, to create better access to primary care within the state, and to also to possibly go to a single payer option is a bill in the House. We have to make Vermont more affordable for you, because what's happening is we cannot attract young families to our state because it's just too expensive. And we are losing population. And then if you are a decade into AARP like me, then it becomes too expensive to stay. So in my opinion, and I'm only one of 30 in the Senate and one of 180 in the entire legislature, that we have to make this more affordable. That does mean, and I will say this, there will be some hard choices. And sometimes that is, not everybody agrees on how to get there. And that means some compromise in the things that we do. So the one thing that I would tell you, and I implore you, is to go to the legislative website and look up my name, and you will see my email, and I even put my cell phone number in there, and I need you to contact me. If you're angry, contact me if you have a good idea. I had 2 good ideas just by being here the last 35 minutes, and things that we can do to make things better for Windsor County. So, I am a politician, and I continually talk, so I want to stop talking right here. And I want to introduce the senior senator of the Windsor District, Allison Clarkson.
Thank you. It's so great to be at the very robust, as always, West Windsor Town Meeting. Town Meeting is a time, as you know, for us to celebrate our municipal life together, and we so appreciate you welcoming your state partners on this, because we are your partners. We work closely with our towns to improve life for Vermont and for Vermonters. I'm Allison Clarkson. I have the honor of serving you as Chair of Senate Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs. Housing is really the biggest crisis we're facing right now. And I also serve with Becca White, who's not able to be here, but is your 3rd state senator. She's covering Hartford and a couple other towns. We sort of divide and conquer. And she and I serve on Senate Government Operations, and which is really a great pleasure. We're here to share that even though our world may be full of uncertainties, Vermont is stable and your legislature is very functional. We have a lot of challenges, no doubt, but I am certain we will navigate them with civility and productivity in the fashion that we have always done that. This year we are most focused on a couple key things: protecting Vermonters' civil liberties, our civil rights, protecting Vermonters from massive federal budget cuts which we're facing, working hard to keep Vermont an affordable place to live, working to ensure that Vermont has a sustainable public education system which is delivered at a sustainably funded rate, and working every day in our committees. That's where we spend the bulk of our time every day. We're only 8 weeks through an 18-week session, and most of our work hasn't even made it to the other chamber yet, so please take everything we say with a grain of salt. It's all a work in progress, and yes, we want to hear when you have strong opinions. We would love to hear, and it's not like we don't hear from you. We hear from you a lot, which is great, which is a part of, I think, our success. Is I think we make ourselves very available to our communities. But we're making progress on a couple key things, on many things, from agriculture to transportation, expanding access to primary care, building more housing, re-envisioning our education delivery system, reducing property taxes, expanding our workforce, and protecting our privacy. And of course, we have to address the gap in the transportation fund, or every road is going to be like a roller coaster and we'll never go to Great Escape. Some of the committee work I'm working on at the moment has been building more housing with less money, major consumer protection pieces, protecting our young people from getting addicted to nicotine through their vaping, economic development, shoring up all the resources that we offer to our small businesses or businesses at every stage of development, and protecting our genetic and data privacy. In GovOps, we're working on a regional law enforcement bill in Windham County, which is very exciting, a pilot that we're hoping to do, and protections in our voting rights bill. So many issues are being addressed in all the different committees in the State House. All of us are grappling with the tough reality that money is very tight, which doesn't mean that our needs have evaporated. In a very tight budget year, we still need to face the perennial challenge of how to pay for all the good things that Vermonters want and need. So I'm going to speak on a point of personal privilege, which if I may, after 22 years in the legislature, I have decided to retire. Serving you has been the honor of a lifetime, and I am so grateful. Thank you for sending me to Montpelier to represent you and to advocate for you. Thank you for trusting me. That's, I think, the biggest thing. Thank you for trusting me to make decisions on your behalf. Thank you for the gift of getting to know many of you, both here in West Windsor and all across this wonderful Windsor district, and getting to know the incredible idiosyncrasies of every one of our 25 towns that we represent. And the thing I think we never can forget the incredible glories of this state that we are lucky enough to live in. Never forget how lucky we are to live here in Vermont. Just talking to Emma, the reporter from the Standard who's here, this is her first town meeting. What a great first town meeting for her to experience. It's great. So, but I'm ready for a new adventure. Vermont is full of opportunities and needs, and I'm ready to focus on some of those. I've treasured my time in the legislature. Thank you all for the opportunity to serve you. It's an honor and a privilege that I never forget, and I'm always grateful for. Thank you so much.
Hi, if you weren't here earlier, my name is Elizabeth Burrows, and I am one of 2 state representatives in the State House. I live here in Brownsville, and this year, town meeting day falls a week before our deadline. In the House of Representatives, we have a deadline by which all bills have to be voted out of committee and out of our body and go over to the Senate so that we can work on Senate bills as they come in so that we can get as much done as we can. Our deadline for bills, for policy bills, is next Friday, and our deadline for money bills is the Friday after that. And the truth is that we haven't passed much out of the House of Representatives so far this session, and it's in part because we've been working on bills that are more complicated than they normally are. They have had to, in my committee, in general and housing, we passed out a bill that creates an accelerator program for building modular and manufactured housing. It's actually a really innovative program. It'll kind of knit together well with some of the other housing minimums that have been handed down by the state. It should be a good program, but it has to go through like 3 or 4 other committees before it can even get to the House floor. And it's not done wending its way through. So we still don't even know if it's going to make it all the way through. I also wanted to talk about Act 73 on our side because it really does affect our town. While the House Education Committee has not made any firm decisions on it, and while I serve on general and housing, I have been pushing back hard on Act 73 because I don't see any true economic analysis that supports what is being asked at the moment. Right now, the House and Senate are both debating maps that include redistricting, which means larger districts. They have to redraw district maps because the new tax structure, which would change the rate for primary homeowners and secondary homeowners and a whole bunch of new categories, that is directly tied to the creation of new districts. So it has to happen, but it depends on, right now the decisions are how it will happen, whether it will be forced, whether towns will have a say. In the House committee, they're talking about what new boards would, what the makeup of the new boards would be, and whether all towns would be represented on them. All towns in the new district would be represented on the boards. On the other hand, they're also talking about new taxation districts, which would alleviate the grand list problem for a lot of our towns, because they would have a bigger area from which to draw, or from which to judge the grand list, and that would be a net positive for us. So I am representing us in those discussions to the greatest of my ability. I'm not yet hoarse, and I'm going to keep fighting for us, but I need you to tell me what I should be fighting for. So we have another week before some of those things come out, and I know that a lot of people in this town are interested in keeping Albert Bridge, and I will do everything I can until I take my last breath to keep that school open. And so that's that. I also have been serving you in the House of Representatives for the last 3 sessions, and this is my, not 3 sessions, sorry, 3 biennia. This is my 6th year, and this is my last town meeting as your representative. I am, because I'm not going to run for the House of Representatives again, I instead am planning to run for the vacancy in the Senate. So if you are interested in seeing my name on the ballot, just because you signed my petition doesn't mean you're voting for me. It's just that you're getting my name on the ballot. And so that is it. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's so great to have Elizabeth as my district mate. I am John Bartholomew. I live in Heartland, and it's always such a treat to come to West Windsor and see the civic engagement. It's amazing looking at some of the other towns that are 4 times as big. They don't get this many people at town meeting. So great job here. Obviously, we're facing some really serious challenges in politics and economics across the country. So, but I'm really pleased to be a member of the Vermont legislature and to be trying to make a difference for Vermonters. And it's a distinct honor to be serving you in Montpelier. I want to echo one of the, just some stuff that Elizabeth was saying about Act 73. The governor and the Secretary of Agency of Education and House and Senate leadership are all dead set in seeing these changes move forward. And I personally am not seeing very little that's being discussed that's going to really help anything in our district. So we're really, I'm going to focus on, I think, Elizabeth as well, unless they can demonstrate that the plan is going to save money or we're going to improve educational outcomes. I can't see supporting what's being proposed, personally. And also, one really weird thing about this, the governor in his state address, all he talked about was education. And he actually has threatened to veto the budget, which has little to do with education if we don't do something he can support. So it's kind of a very difficult situation for us dealing with education. As you've heard, there's a lot of stuff going on at the State House. Up to this point in the session, almost all of our work is in committee. That's about to change as all the bills come out of the committees and hit the House floor. We have 14 different policy and money committees in the House. I, last year, served on the Environment Committee, and it's really unusual to change committees in the middle of the biennium. But we had some people leave the House, and the Speaker had asked me to step up as Vice Chair of the Committee of Agriculture, Food Resiliency, and Forestry. So had a kind of this weird change. And I also serve in the House Committee on Rules. In agriculture, obviously agriculture has traditionally been an extremely important aspect of Vermont's economy and our identity and culture. And for decades, farms that comply with the required agricultural practices have been regulated by the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. But recently, the Vermont Supreme Court misinterpreted this long-standing legislative intent and came up with a ruling that municipalities can regulate farming. This could be disastrous for some farms in some areas of the state. So we're working on a bill to clarify when municipal governments can apply bylaws and ordinances to our farms and our farmers. And we're also working on language to give all Vermonters the right to grow and raise food. We're also looking at the regulation of pesticides and chemicals. And while the U.S. often lags behind other countries regarding toxic chemicals, Vermont's been a leader in protecting our environment and food supply. So we're considering several bills designed to strengthen these protections. The first I'll mention is newborn babies. Do you realize that there's actually an issue with lead, arsenic, cadmium, and mercury in baby food? Who would have think that that would be an issue? So we have a bill to require regular testing of baby food and infant formula for these heavy metals, and to make sure that the levels don't exceed the Food and Drug Administration limits that they've set, and make a process to make it easy for consumers to see these results. Another bill would further regulate the use of paraquat. If you don't know, paraquat is a highly toxic herbicide, and it's been linked to Parkinson's disease. It's widely used in the United States, including Vermont, to suppress weed growth, mostly in orchards and some other crops. And interestingly, most of the paraquat made in the United States is made by a Chinese-based company, and paraquat is banned in China, as well as 71 other countries. So we're trying to figure out how to deal with paraquat. And another one aims at restricting the use of anticoagulant rodenticides. Rodents obviously can be a real problem throughout human history, a threat to our food supplies and our health, but they also cause other problems because these poisons can cause human poisonings, particularly in children, and also poisoning of pets and other domestic animals and wildlife, including some of the predators for the rodents we're trying to control. So that's some of the stuff we're covering in agriculture. I'll just mention one other thing. You may know that the Windsor County Sheriff is facing some legal challenges. And maybe it's not a huge issue in West Windsor, but certainly all across Windsor County, there are towns that depend on the Sheriff's Office to provide policing, and the courts rely on the Sheriff's Office. So we in the legislature don't have a huge role in this, but we are monitoring what's happening very carefully. We're getting advice from the Windham County Sheriff, as well as our own legislative council, and monitoring what's going on and making sure that the Windsor County Sheriff's Office is providing the services we need. So I think I'll leave it at that, although there's so much going on. We could talk the rest of the morning and only be touching on it. So thank you again.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead. Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay.
So I actually have questions for John and Elizabeth, and I'm sad I don't know if Joe and Allison left
They have
already.
other town meetings, so they did apologize as they had it out.
Okay. But my question is this. The education fund, the state of Vermont, is projecting an increase of over 22% for FY26 projected, it says. So I'm surprised, this must be an old figure, so it's probably tracking for FY27 as well. But I'm wondering why in the education fund there is a whole list of things that don't seem like they're very education fund related to me. And the numbers are significant.
Yes, they are.
And so I'm just going to read a few because this was really stark to me. Nonprofit medical service corporations, $194,000. Local development corporations, $185,000. VHFA, $56,000. And then you've got colleges, VSAC, UVM. Cemeteries are in here for $622,000. Libraries, that's okay. So, although I do feel that the education fund should be paying for our schools. Okay, libraries, cemeteries, they all are supported by their towns, I hope, but I understand why that might be in here. But maybe a little clarification on that would be good as well. Congressionally chartered organizations, $1 million. Public, pious, and charitable property, $72 million. PPC school, PPC college, hospital. I assume those are the result of COVID. Is that PPC? What is PPC? I don't even know what that is.
This is exactly what I'm talking about when I say that Act 73 isn't necessarily the way to fix our education system.
Right.
That we have a lot of drags on the education fund, and including the tax incremental finance districts that help us develop infrastructures in bigger towns, and now the CHIP. Its little sister, the CHIP program, those are funded out of the education fund.
Right. I'm not done.
Yeah, no. We just put through a bill that asks to have a full analysis of all of these different drags because they don't have anything to do with education, or they have very tangential things to do with education, and we don't actually know a firm number of what the drags on the education fund are. It's not right. I don't know.
I have to account for the pennies that are in this annual report. And if we're doing this, lumping things into the education fund, and no one knows how to explain it, how is that allowed?
I don't know. I don't know.
Going through the roof.
And the question is, should we even have an education fund?
The schools need to be paid for. That, as a Vermonter, is what we signed up to do.
But
Kids in school or not. But it shouldn't be that we are paying for a large power plant or qualified housing or tax increment finance districts, which is $6.5 million.
I know.
What is that? So I'm bringing that all to light because it's not right.
It's not right. I agree with you.
I want to know what you guys are doing about it. I'm picking on you because you two are here. But the others that left and statewide, everybody's having this problem.
I want you to know that I have voted against every time there has been something added to the ed fund. I have voted it down. I am opposed to any non-educational things being added to the ed fund, and I just want an economic analysis of what's in the ed fund. I want to know how that happens. I don't know.
I would think that you could demand that happen.
That's why we've had a bill that we just put forward, and we don't know whether it will even be taken up. But I am relentless about asking about it. And
I think we all need to put the pressure on all of our representatives and senators to have that come forward.
Yeah.
Because it's not
right. I totally agree with you. It's not right, and it's something in a black box that if we're paying for it, we should be able to peer into it.
Well, and be transparent about it.
Yeah.
Put it on its own line item in your annual report. Don't stick it in the education fund.
I agree. But I will say that just for clarification's sake, when we on the school board pass the budget and the thing that you vote on is the actual education spending in our towns. So the other pieces of the education fund come from other sources of revenue, but what you vote on is what we spend on the schools, just so you know. The other sources of funding go to funding the agency of education and all the other machinations of running the education system. But when you vote for the school budget, you're actually voting for the school budget and you're not voting for paying for all these other things, just to clarify.
But it is reflected in the state education payment portion of our tax bill, this document that I'm looking from. I mean, it's all, so if every town...
It's in the mix.
Right, it is a mix, but if every town is voting for the money that they are only doing for their school, then somehow this budget has to be also calculated into that state payment, state education tax that we're all paying. That's going up, it has gone up 41%, and I think it's, what, been 5 years?
But those things are paid through sources like the rooms and meals taxes and the state lottery, and I mean, it is those are the main sources of funding for those other costs. They are, and I am not defending any of the other drags on the ed fund. I disagree with them. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair that we are not able to quantify even, what it is. I want to be really clear about that. But just so you understand, it doesn't all, the budget that you're voting on is actually, literally, the budget of running these schools. And it's not about how much it costs to run the agency of education.
I keep looking at the door and wondering if anyone will notice about it.
I think it's locked.
No, I appreciate you bringing this up, and clearly we don't have all the answers. It's a mess, and there are many other factors that are complicating this as well. One thing you didn't mention that is bothering to me is that we're asking our schools to do more and more so that funds go up, the healthcare costs are out of control, and things like mental health services. We're seeing more and more need for that in our schools. And why is that being paid for through education? It doesn't make sense. It ought to be human services or some other agency. So that's a problem. Another real problem we have is with education. Some of the money from gas tax goes to the education fund. Well, our roads are deteriorating. We're having to lay off, I think, 50 road service people in the Agency of Transportation to take care of our roads. So why is money that's designated for roads going to schools? There's a mess of this stuff. I'm trying to sort it out. I don't know if I should be wishing I was on appropriations or Ways and Means to help sort this out. We're glad that I'm not. But you're absolutely right. It's a problem, and I can't say that I can give you a great answer that's going to satisfy.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, hi, Ed. I just have a question. If the governor's plan...
Can you speak up, please?
If the governor's plan and Act 73 aren't the answer, what is the answer? Just after saying you've been here for 6 years, you've dealt with... John, you know that I worked in school finance for 20 years. I was the business manager at Windsor. I'm just wondering, we know that you don't think what is now being offered is good. What is the solution? What do you think would fix the issue? Do you have a solution, or is it just that you're opposed to the solution the government proposed?
Well, I personally, I want to say first that there does not exist any data anywhere in the country, urban or rural, that shows that shuttering schools saves money past 5 years. It does not exist. There is no data to support it, period. You can laugh and smile all you want, but I'd love to see it if you've got it. Secondly,
my point is that I've heard this over and over again. That it doesn't.
And what is the solution?
But yeah, what is the solution?
Well, of the many studies that have been done on the state of Vermont's education problem, one of the solutions, or what the studies have continually said, is that the state should be supporting small schools, and that because There is data that shows that when a small elementary school closes and a student has to travel outside of their hometown to go to elementary school, they have a 19% higher rate of becoming a financial burden to the state as adults. And there are many reasons for that. But we haven't done an analysis of, like, when we close a school locally and that happens, and a town winds up, the demographics of the town wind up becoming older and older, so the services that keep the town going then have to be paid for rather than done through volunteers. We haven't done an analysis of all of that stuff. We don't know whether towns survive the loss of their schools. We haven't actually looked at that and which of the options that are available do actually, we're not going to save money. We might wind up stemming the flow and costing less over time. We haven't actually, that's what I'm saying. We haven't actually taken the time to look at that. We have all of the individual data points. We have not looked at all of the data points and compared them. And I have been obnoxiously relentless about asking for that to be analyzed. Like, okay, so that's that. What are some other options about stabilizing the cost of education? One is addressing healthcare. We know that healthcare is the thing that has driven our school budget's cost over the last at least 5 years, or now 9 years since the state has taken over the negotiations of our benefits negotiations. We know that in the state of Vermont, it is a full-on crisis. Healthcare, not only the cost of healthcare, but also who gets covered by it, and the availability of doctors. We know that that's a huge problem. We know that building more housing will help to bring the property taxes down. We also know that it might be possible to use, have either switch to income-based taxing or use a blend of income-based and property taxes, which is what a lot of other states do. We have not looked at any of those things. There's been no proposal of any of those things. So I think that actually looking at what the options are and deciding on one of them through full analysis would be really useful. I'm sorry, I'm glad about, but it's obviously one of my passions.
Okay, we're also just going to need to move along at some point, so...
You're in charge. You think you're in charge, right?
A couple of minutes, and maybe I think Shirley had a question.
I don't have anything profound to add to that, other than obviously it's a huge problem. And Elizabeth touched on one of the biggest drivers is healthcare, and that's not just for education, but all our state workers and everyone here who has to buy health insurance. It's just a crazy problem, and that's really one of the problems. And then the other huge problem we have in this state is declining student population. So they're not very efficient. We still have the same amount of land mass to cover, and you can't have students, you can't... There isn't a lot of information to suggest that consolidation is going to save money. So what the real answer is, more kids?
We don't have a declining student population. We have a declining enrollment in public education declining. That is not the same as a declining student population.
Well, for whatever reason, we have fewer people in our public schools, so that is a big problem, and I'm not sure what the answer is. It's, if you look at the entire state of Vermont, and if we made it one school district, we would be smaller than the New York City school district. So we just have to look for ways, efficiencies across all the school boards, and I'm not sure loss of local control is the answer.
Okay, Shirley, you had a question.
Yeah, Shirley, I read this to you at your selectmen special meeting. In 2026-27 school year, will cost Vermont between 2.5 and 2.6 billion. That's $30,000 a child. nearly 60% more than in 2018. We used to have 105,000 students, down to 75,000. Public education borrows all 6% sales tax revenue, a third vehicle sales tax revenue, a quarter of 9% rooms and meals tax, all state lottery money, which they'll tell you, that is 100% your administrative cost. How can that possibly be? New 3% surcharge on short-term rentals, new cloud tax on internet-based services. How many of you know about that? Which you can now tax under clouds. So have fun with that. Some Medicaid funds. Where did that come from? For the past few years, most of any general fund surplus, there's a new $100 million a year payroll tax to pay for pre-K. And of course, we know where all of our property taxes go. I would like the selectmen or whoever wants to take charge to speak with Amy, get something written up that all of us can sign and send it back to Montpelier, letting them know just how pleased we are at how we handle education.
Okay, so I think we're going to put a stop to, I appreciate you both being here. I appreciate you both taking the questions. I know sometimes it's difficult to be in the hot seat, but it's great that we had this opportunity. And I am going to move on. Okay, everybody good with that? Okay, thank you for coming. Okay, so we're going to move on to Article 8. Shall the town exempt all properties of the West Windsor Volunteer Fire Department from municipal taxes for a period of 5 years? Do I have a motion and a second to move forward that article? Second? Okay. Is there somebody from the fire department that would like to speak to that article?
Yeah, we're a private organization, and we have a limited budget. We're going to support this will ultimate impact on the taxpayers.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of exempting the West Windsor Volunteer Fire Department from municipal taxes for a period of 5 years, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Okay, the ayes have it. There is one other thing that we've always done every year, and that is have a moment of silence for those of West Windsor residents who have passed throughout the year. It is listed on page 15. In memory of our friends and neighbors who have passed away: Joyce White, Helena Parker, Lana Wright, Eleanor Robinson, Shirley Fenner, Edwin Reynolds, Gordon Cowdery, William Fenn, Edward Truex, Mary Lou Kelly, and Elfrida Burton. Can we have a moment of silence for them, please? Okay, thank you. Moving on to Article 9. Shall the town approve budgeted expenditures for the general, highway, library, and cemetery funds for the fiscal year 2027, totaling $2,920,000 as shown below? General, $778,829. Highway, $1,158,582. Library, $58,009. Cemetery, $5,500, of which $1,485,894 shall be raised by taxes. General, $469,703. Highway, $958,182. Library, $58,009, and cemetery, $0. After applying $454,526 of non-tax revenues and $60,500 from prior year reserve surpluses, all as shown in financial statements published in the town report. Do I have a motion and a second? Put that article on the floor. Okay, any discussion or questions for the select board? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the town budget as just read to you on Article 9, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, signify by saying nay. Okay, let's have it. Article 10, shall the town appropriate $103,250 to be raised by taxes for distribution to the 4 West Windsor organizations in the amounts listed below. West Windsor Volunteer Fire Department, $88,750. West Windsor Volunteer Fast Squad, $3,000. West Windsor Historical Society, $8,500. And West Windsor Independence Day Committee, $3,000. Do I have a motion and a second to put that on the floor?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, questions? Okay. Hearing none. We will put Article 10 to a vote. All in favor of the town appropriating the $103,250 as just signified, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Okay, motion carries. So we're going to go Article 11, but I just want to remind you one more time to please stay for Article 12 because it really is an important part of the meeting for people to be able to present things that aren't on the agenda. And again, the fire department would like to speak with everyone, so it would be wonderful if everybody would stay for that. Article 11, and I'm going to apologize up front. State law says I have to read this. Okay, so I'm going to have to go through the whole thing. I'll talk really fast. Shall the town appropriate $10,220 to be raised by taxes for distribution to 13 other organizations which provide important social services to town residents in the amounts listed below? Healthcare and Rehabilitation Services of Southeastern Vermont, $1,067. Windsor County Mentors, $1,000. Volunteers in Action, $500. Vermont Center for Independent Living, $140. Green Up Vermont, $100. Visiting Nurse Association and Hospice of Vermont and New Hampshire, $2,475. SEVCA, $1,050. Vermont Association of Conservation Districts, $102. The Mover, $125. Windsor County Youth Services, $600. Senior Solutions, $811. Reading West Windsor Aging in Place, $2,000. Windsor On Air, $250. Okay, do I have a motion and a second? Second, okay. Does anybody have any questions or discussions, or is there anyone from one of these groups that would like to speak?
There's your question. Somebody to speak to like how these all get lumped in again, like that, because if it's a straight yay or nay of all of these. So how does a entity get on to the whole list?
A social organization that wishes to receive an appropriation from the town, the first time it does it has to do a petition of, I believe it's 5% of registered voters, so about 50 odd signatures. That'll allow the town to vote on that in organization individually in the first year. After that, they're put onto the slate. You as the voters always have an opportunity to put a motion to break the slate and vote on these organizations individually. It's really administrative convenience that they're lumped together. Beyond that, on any given year, if the requested increase is greater than 2%, then that has to be pursuant to the same process, a petition of 50 odd signatures and then voted on individually. So the increases are capped for them to stay on the slate at 2% year over year.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Sue, can you stand up and speak up, please? Thank you.
They're the public transportation option. You've seen the short bus going around, picking people up who don't have access otherwise.
My friend is legally blind, and she's called me over twice, and I told her we don't deliver to West Windsor.
That is true.
Okay.
And I have challenged them on that, and they will do it if you request for a doctor's appointment only, but at your request, but they don't make a regular run through town to bring people to get groceries or something like that. It's very frustrating. Yep.
Any other conversation? Okay, now generally you restate the article, but I'm going to take the exception and not restate this article. Okay, so Article 11, all in favor of the appropriation of $10,220 as divvied up among the organizations listed below, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by nay? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, so now we're going to do Article 12, which is to do any other business that can be legally done at this meeting. We cannot take any legal action here. There's no voting. This is really just a way for neighbors and organizations to bring people up to speed on what's happening. And I will start with the fire department.
Eric Locker, the fire chief, and I want to take a few moments. I promise I'll keep it as short as I can. It's been a long meeting. Hey, what I want to do, first of all, can you run to the people about that?
What's your name?
Oh, you want to see? First of all, thank you, everybody, for your support. We would not be able to function without you in a lot of ways, so thank you financially and for your support of the town. I want to take a minute and talk about some things that are going on in the firehouse and give a little history on us as a department. There's been some chatter that some of it's inaccurate. I just wanted to clear the air on some things. We were founded in 1958 by a group of volunteers that basically were sick of watching their house and their barns burn down. So they came to a town meeting. They formed a fire department. It was obviously well before my time. And that's how we started. And since then, historically, we have survived solely on the support of you, the tax base. And as the years have gone on, we've asked for money for trucks, for bonds. We ask annually for money to fund our operating budget. As in current theme of what has happened in this meeting, we are seeing extraordinary increases in our operating costs. In the last 9 years, fire trucks have roughly doubled, and the cost of our protective equipment and air packs has more than doubled. So if you fast forward to today, we're roughly 30 members strong. We have a chief, assistant chief, 4-officer structure, and we go to monthly trainings at the firehouse, monthly equipment checks to take care of all of our equipment, make sure it's operating, and we have meetings monthly. Aside from that, we go to calls, we go to elective trainings in other towns, state trainings, and specialized trainings. There's two people I'd like to point out today, Steve Kellner, Brian Packard, they're both up top there. These two guys just made the commitment of becoming fully Pro Board certified firefighters. So what that means for this town, if you want to be an officer, if you want to go into a burning building, if you want to have the knowledge, you have to go to this state mandated training. Long gone are the days where we train everything in-house. This is 190 hours of volunteer time for firefighter 1, followed by 90 hours of volunteer time for firefighter 2. With travel, my estimates are they are about 400 hours of their time for free to become a certified firefighter. And that's the same certification you need to be a full-time firefighter, and that's what we need to be certified to come to your home in this town and do our job. Quick numbers, if I put both of them in new turnout gear, which we have done, put an air pack on them, a helmet, and give them a basic set of tools, they're walking into a burning building with excess of $20,000 worth of equipment. That's on a lifespan, right? We can't run that past a certain amount of years due to federal speculations, right? So we have to plan ahead as a community. Again, way before my time, Jim Kenyon was fire chief. Before Mike Spackman was fire chief, he stood up in front of the town and said, we need to plan ahead for fire trucks. And the townspeople, as we've always had, and we're very grateful for it, had enormous support and said, we don't need to plan ahead. You need a fire truck, bring us what you want, and we'll vote on it. I feel that those days are gone. The cost is too great. The cost of borrowing money is great, and there's better ways to look out for the people in this community for our tax dollars. In the next year, we will be presenting some things to the public. We'll be talking in-house. We'll be working with the select board. And we want to be transparent about that. And we want people's input, and we want your support. So the first step to that, April 26th, Peter and Lauren have offered to have a fundraising dinner, which the fire department will be a part of. Anybody here is encouraged, welcome to come, ask questions. We don't have all the answers right now. I want to be fully transparent. This is a work in progress. I'm using this forum to just present what is coming and what we are hoping to achieve. After that, I hope to hold a few informational meetings for anyone that has questions. And I encourage anyone in here, if you have questions, to reach out to me. You can email me, chief@westwindsorfire.net. And if I don't have the answers, I'll do my best to respond. I'm happy to take a few questions. Again, I don't have all the answers, but I welcome anything.
Yeah, hi, Eric, Peter Money. At the moment, does the fire department have a 501c3 Friends of the Fire Department or a fire department boosters club that supplements the money that comes from the town?
At the moment, we are structured just as a 501c4 as a fire department, not a separate.
Jack? Is the general idea here to develop an equipment fund or something to help, lower the upfront cost, or what's the general thought process?
Sure, fair question. The general thought process is capital planning for the larger expenses. It would be separate from our operating budget, which we would, hope the taxpayers would approve and work with us on an annual basis, but this would plan ahead a little bit more for those large purchases. If you look in the town report, there's some numbers in there on I think the 2007 fire truck is in there and the 2017 fire truck. Those numbers today are severely inflated, and we feel it's best to plan ahead.
To what degree does the West Windsor Fire Department share costs for things among other fire departments around our state or our region? Do you team up to buy things together to increase your buying capability or?
Great question, thank you. So,
Could you repeat the part? I'm going to hear the question.
Sure. So Elizabeth asked, what do we do? Is there anything that we've done to increase our buying power working with other departments or within state programs? West Windsor historically has bought trucks, sister trucks with other towns. So we have a truck, our forestry right now, which we need to replace, is aging. That was a sister truck that we purchased with Heartland. And our engine, which is a 2007, that was purchased with Reading as a sister truck. So we had the buying power of two trucks. We've done a lot in the past to minimize the tax burden, and that is ultimately our goal. And I'll put Mike on the spot. When he was chief before me, he went on a fundraising campaign because we needed a way to get to people easier on the mountain with the increased trail activity. And we raised the money outside of tax dollars to purchase our UTV and our trailer. The ladder truck that's in the station was bought, the first ladder truck was bought from the resort in 1984. And when it came time to replace it, we were very lucky to find a newer truck, by no means new, that could replace that truck at a value that was very fair, and we purchased that through the fire department, and that was did not come from tax dollars. So we will continue to do that. However, we need to plan ahead and have the most value for our dollar that we can. Any other questions?
Dan?
Yes, Dan Webster. So should we be appropriating more money so that it's available for you to work out of every year? I mean, should we be doing like a 10% increase or something? Do you have any sort of a figure of what would work?
Sure. So, I mean, again, we do not have answers to the actual number that we need for capital planning right now. I'm using this forum as a great opportunity when people are in this room to present what we are doing. Our budget is quite low comparatively to towns around us. We've done our best to keep it that way. We realize some of these larger items that we discussed today, some of the larger tax issues that we have, we're very sensitive to that. We pay taxes in this town too, so we're trying to keep that as low as we can. I think that there are different avenues, whether we ask for it from the department, working with the town in capital planning. But in the end, yes, I think that we need to set more money aside for the fire department. Regardless which vehicle we use, we need to plan ahead a little bit more.
So moving forward, we should be appropriating more funds for you to work out. I mean, we all benefit from it. Either you or the fast squad.
In one way or the other, exactly. The goal here would be to set more funds aside, and when the time comes for capital expenses, spend less on interest and have more money and keep the dollar stronger within West Windsor.
Thank you.
David?
David Jacks, West Windsor Fire. One of the things that Eric did a great job in the presentation, but just for the constituency of the town to realize, some of the effort by the fire department has also been involved with getting grants. And that grant money trickles down from the federal government. And as that trickles down, Elizabeth alluded to it earlier, that the state is having a hard time getting those dollars as well. And so it's having a multiple effect across the country, right? So what we've seen historically is that the equipment cost is doubling in price across every aspect, whether it's the air tanks, the trucks, all of those things. So some of those grant funds, which we were very successful, we took almost $100,000 in grant money to buy our air packs. That grant money probably is not going to be available in the future, right? So we are making an effort as a department to find sources of income and extra revenue to come in to help supplement the cost. But that pressure is then compounded across every department and every agency across every state. And that money has decreased, right? So the available pool is much, much smaller with the escalated costs, right? So that's what's facilitating this, right? And our primary function as a department is we spend an inordinate amount of time planning to respond to a problem, right? The reason we offer services is the fact that we planned to deal with a problem if someone is unfortunate enough to have a problem. What Eric is doing today is saying we're making an attempt and we need to change the way we think about the department to plan for this problem, even though we still haven't been able to define the problem other than the fact that the costs are going crazy.
Any other questions?
Claudia Saker. I'm going to look at this positively. We have midterm elections coming. Perhaps we can change from the top down that federal funding problem and take our social services and things like your equipment back down to a level that towns can afford by changing the regime instead of taking all that money and putting it into defense, which we're doing this week. And maybe the tariffs. I think maybe that'll change. They were said to be not legal. Maybe things will change that way. But you're right, we need to plan. But I think that's a good place to start. Regime change.
Eric, how do we, if we start brainstorming ourselves, come up with ideas about how you might be able to raise capital funds, How do we best contact you and talk to you, or you?
Sure, yeah. Again, email, feel free to write down chief@westwindsorfire.net. I'll bring anything I get from anybody here to the membership. And our goal is transparency with this. And the goal for me is to make sure the taxpayers in this town trust that the fire department's looking out for you. And we're trying to maintain our level of service and do the best thing that we can do for you. And next year, I hope to be at a different place and to have your support. And we have a year to do that and work together. So in that process, I anticipate holding a few meetings with the department and the public so that we can hear input, positive or negative, and we can work together and come to a solution.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Announcement, comments. Shirley?
One comment which the selectmen brought up, I'll forget, but I think I didn't know. One of your concerns for wanting to make more money was taking care of like this building. And I do have a suggestion, which I'm sure a lot of you may not love, but it's a historic building, so I know you don't want to destroy anything and change anything. You're talking about having to replace this floor and how much it's going to cost. And your projected cost several years ago was $50,000. So we know it's a lot more than that. So I have a simple solution, because that's the way I think. You could go over this floor with that luxury vinyl planking. It would not disturb this floor. It wouldn't change anything. It would probably be not even a tenth of the cost. It actually can be put down by people as simple as I am. And the only other thing that you would have to add to that would be a little molding around your edge to cover up the gap that you have to have. That stuff is indestructible. These chairs can't hurt it. Cleats can't hurt it. Water can't hurt it. They're putting it in the higher quality homes now. It's absolutely indestructible. And I would think that that could save you a lot of money on just taking care of this one issue. And there's enough other smart people in this town that could come up with other ideas, I do believe, on ways to cut expenses and just have to feel that they've got the right to step up and come up with an idea. No matter how silly you all may think this might be, it is a way to take care of a problem right off the bat and save yourself a lot of money.
Thank you, Shirley. Any other comments or questions?
Jessica Brody, Blood Hill Road. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that supported the Brownsville Base Camp. We're going into our third summer this year, and Amanda Yates and I started this camp along with Chris Nesbitt a couple years ago, and just wanted to thank you guys again for all your support in any way that anyone has supported us, whether it be donations, access to land, visiting us, and helping with the kids. This year, we expanded the middle school program. It's going to be taking place 4 out of 5 weeks. And last year we expanded the K-6 program to a total of 5 weeks. And we have pretty much sold out every space that's available within the first week this year. So going into the third year, the camp is well known in the area. We have kids from all around the Upper Valley coming. It's a good problem to have. Next year, we will probably implement that in-town residents get first dibs at registering, because we learned this year how fast some of those weeks sold out. So just wanted to give an update on that, and thank you all again for your support.
Thanks, Jess. Any other comments?
Hello, this is Sherry Barber from town here. I would personally like to thank the West Windsor Fire Department for all their hours of training and for helping us in our hour of need. Would we all clap for
Jill Blaney, I read a one-liner somewhere that the town is looking into green burials. Can anybody speak to that?
It's out of my pay grade.
Discussing green burials.
You want the microphone?
I'm Tom Whalen, sexton in Sheddsville. That's a good question. We have looked into it, discussed it, and it is feasible. No one has asked for a green burial, but if there's a will, there's a way, and we can do it at Sheddsville. So we're open to all forms of burial. Does that answer the question?
Well enough, thank you.
Okay. Well, I have this microphone. A lot of politician folks make it real short and sweet. But I want to thank our select board, our moderator, and Matt Frederick and Amy for doing a great job with this town. One word, when I heard the word tax, I freaked out, and I was like, oh my God, tax. It's a anathema to hear that word. But then I realized I have trust in these people. And that to me is what makes all this feasible. So the trust is crucial, and I trust them. So, and I'm not just saying that because I'm the sexton. They pay me a lot of money.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, seeing no other hands, I'll accept a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.